Now for global business updates, Rotus Oddiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Dr. Vasi. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. As always, beginning with oil, it looks like it's just range-bound in the $70 region. Wall Street analysts are saying they see $70 oil for 2025. So edging down a bit, 72.82 Brent. West North American grade 68.93. We're going to get those inventory numbers from the U.S. I think tomorrow or Thursday. So that'll give us a gauge on, I guess, demand in the U.S. As always, we put the benchmark there for Nigeria. Maybe we'll swap that and put other benchmarks for other countries. But still, the point is that you need higher oil to fund your infrastructure needs. Asia markets were mixed. Shanghai Composite Index in China was up. Hang Seng, in fact, Hang Seng was the biggest drop, as you can see there, 1.9%. You had the Nikkei up as well. Kospi in Korea down. Nifty in India oscillating a bit. That was down. ASX in Australia down. Trump, I mean, at this point, it's just, so he said, the day before yesterday, he said there's going to be some flexibility in the April 2nd tariffs. That actually led to U.S. markets climbing yesterday. The S&P had its best day in 2025. Then he now says, okay, automotive tariffs are coming, quote unquote, soon. And he mentioned lumber and other things. And the thing is, he just had a meeting with Stellantis, Ford, and GM to give a reprieve on tariffs on automobiles. And then, now he's come back and said the tariffs are back again. So, in fact, we're going to get to BYD in a moment. Their shares, despite a very healthy earnings report from BYD, Chinese automaker, their shares actually fell. I think based on this announcement, we saw some volatility in automotive stocks. So, at this point, he claims it's April 2nd is Liberation Day. We'll see what exactly that means. But there's just so much uncertainty right now with respect to where these tariffs are going. But still, for Asia, a bit of a tragic news coming from Samsung Electronics. Han Jo-hee, who is their co-CEO, passed away at 63. Apparently, the notification was that he had cardiac arrest. He's been with the company since 1988. He was behind the Samsung LEDs, televisions. He led their devices units, which includes mobile and other things, since 2022. He chaired a shareholders meeting. I think it was just a week or two ago. Anyway, it looks like statements. I think they obtained some statements that were put out to the employees saying this is from the company. Deepest condolences are with his family and loved ones during this difficult time. He's also vice chair. Mentioned the fact he joined in 88, dedicated more than 37 years of his career to lead Samsung's TV business to become a global leader. And this is coming at a time, this is the devices unit, talking about the devices division and digital appliances, right? But right now, Samsung is in a tough place. I mean, Han himself apologized to shareholders saying, look, we've fallen behind in our chips business. This is a Korean company, of course. They've fallen behind to TSMC, the Taiwanese company, in terms of chip manufacturing and getting customers. They are facing a lot of competition from Apple and from Huawei as far as mobile devices are concerned. So he actually apologized and said they're going to try to ramp that up, and now he passes away. So the stock is up, I think, about 12% year to date. It did fall about 1.6% in trading, I guess, in after-hours trading on the news. So, at this point, they have not mentioned who his successor is going to be, but it's rocky times for Samsung at this point. From there, I think we go to BYD. So this is what I was talking about, the auto tariffs. I mean, BYD is just putting up some impressive numbers. Again, this is the Chinese electric vehicle maker. So fourth quarter revenues, 274 billion yuan. In dollars, that's almost $40 billion, 38.4, 52% growth for the fourth quarter. For full year, that's revenues. For profits, for the fourth quarter, 15 billion yuan, that's about $2.1 billion, 73% climb year on year. For full year profits, 40 billion yuan, that's about $5.6 billion. The shares year to date are up 51%. But as I said, despite this impressive result, they fell, I think, coinciding with this announcement from Trump that automotive tariffs are coming. Because again, as I talked about, I think it was earlier this week, their plants in Mexico, they are yet to receive permission from the Commerce Ministry to open that. They're planning another plant in Germany. But you can see that with automotive companies, they have factories around the world. So because of the inputs they need and they're importing from one place to the next, tariffs will impact their bottom line. So again, but still, they've beaten Tesla now, I think, in full year profit for 2024. BYD they've announced that software updates, that AI software update that comes at no charge. They announced electric vehicle charging in 5 minutes. I mean, the company is just really pushing forward. From there, from BYD, we go to Cassava and NVIDIA. It's going to make Vimbai very happy. So Strive Masiyiwa is, of course, the CEO of the Econet Group, and Cassava Technologies is a subsidiary of that. They are essentially a data solutions and technology company on the African continent. They've got data centers they're pushing forward to assist businesses to push forward in tech. They provide digital solutions and the like. So they've announced that they're joining forces with NVIDIA in order to build what they call Africa's first AI factory. They're going to deploy NVIDIA's GPUs and other software in their plants in South Africa by June of this year. They then plan to expand that to Egypt, Nigeria, and other African countries on the African continent. And essentially, it's big news for the company. And again, you remember when I was talking about the UAE saying they're going to invest $1.4 trillion in the US, and then they said that for data centers they're going to partner with Elon Musk's XAI. And I mentioned that if you are going to partner with anybody serious for data centers, it's NVIDIA before you talk to anyone else, right? So this is Cassava here. Finally, UBA, the earnings for full year 2024, highest earning profit ever for the company. Gross earnings there at 3.1 trillion, 53% climb there. Total assets at 30.4 trillion. Even their shareholders' funds, big jump for the company, 46% for total assets. Interest income, I always put that in. It's a metric we use where you look at the amount of interest that banks are paying on accounts that earn interest versus what they earn on their loans. So you take interest income versus interest expense, you get your net interest income, 1.5 trillion, 116% growth there. Pre-tax profit, 6% growth. Profit after tax announced, I think he proposed a dividend of $3, bringing their full year dividend to 5 naira. And it's pretty impressive. And I think ex-Nigeria, international and other African, their subsidiaries across Africa contributed about 51% to group revenue. Wow. So it's pretty impressive stuff. I think the stock is up about 10% so far this year. So strong performance from UBA.
What a great, impressive record by UBA. And it also coincides with his birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mr. Tony Elumelu.
Mr. Tony Elumelu. Happy birthday to him.
That was on Saturday.
Saturday,
birthday. Posting the best results ever 2 days after. I mean, that's the toll way. Yeah. That's the way of doing things. Yeah. But, I mean, it just shows the resilience of this company, how it's been able to pick this company up, and you can see the result. And the fact that you talked about the very impressive report that the external stations are now bringing a big sum into the profit quota and into the revenue quota. Normally, it wasn't the case before. It was Nigeria majority of the business, but it shows he's been able to get a spread. I mean, look at the assets: 34 trillion. Pre-tax profit over 800 billion, 766 billion at a time like this. And that's why we keep telling people that entrepreneurship is the way to go.
Of course,
that's how you can build this economy.
African capitalism, as you call it.
African capitalism. This economy that a lot of people think, that they are just going to be any government in power looking for spokesperson job and things like that running around. No, that's not the way to build an economy. Enterprise will build an economy.
Of course.
You want to compare this kind of revenue to states in this country?
The states are struggling.
They're struggling because we are not seeing enterprise. And congratulations to Cassava.
Yeah.
That's the way to go. Partnership with companies like NVIDIA. That's what big credit go. Look at BYD. Look at the numbers. I keep challenging the Nigerian government. The reason for the success of BYD today is because it's state capitalism. China's government is giving them a lot of subventions, pumping money into it. What subvention have we given our own automakers in this country? What have we done for Nord? What have we done? Apart from patrons of Nord and Innocent and the likes, also pump money into this company. Nigerian government by now should also walk up to people like Innocent, buy 10-20% share in it, pump equity into them, walk up to what's it called, Nord, buy equity 10-20%, pump money into it, increase the valuation. That's what they should do. Support Dangote, not victimize Dangote. That's what we are saying. Support Dangote. The initial share that they wanted to buy in Dangote that they scaled back, buy those shares. That's how you grow enterprise.
All right. Okay, Grow Enterprise. Congratulations to UBA and, of course, to the group.
Yeah.
And Mr. Tony Melutio, it was his birthday. Beyond that, they are winning on all sides. There was also a $15 million investment announced for his foundation for at least, I think, about 3,000 people from businesses from the African continent. So really good to see Africapitalism at work.
Yes.
But let me talk about BYD this morning as well. And it looks like it's not a very good day or period or season for Tesla. Aside from the recall of the Tesla truck, which you talked about, some of the backlash from his closeness to and his political leanings with the current president of America, China is moving in and capitalizing on their losses. And that's why we've seen the figures of BYD earning highlights. We've seen the revenues high. We've seen the sale of the number of cars. We have to talk about in terms of the cost of the cars. And this might or might not hopefully influence the cost for Tesla cars, because we're seeing that you can get EV vehicles cheaper. And what analysts have said for the future is that this is the future for EV vehicles, not just in the West, but also even coming down to Africa here, and the affordability for that.
Okay, let's talk about markets. The Hong Kong Hang Seng fell by about 2%.
Big drop.
But it was a general thing across Asia. The mainland China CSI 300 also went down. In South Korea, the Kospi and the small cap Kosdaq also dropped by about 0.67%. Now, what is responsible for all of this? Because of anxiety about what Trump is going to do. However, in the United States, the markets did very well yesterday. The main indexes, Dow Jones, Nasdaq Composite, the S&P 500 did very well. Then also Nvidia did well. Tesla shares, in fact, went up 12%, by 12%, after 9 weeks of a consistent decline. And what was that the case? It was simply because President Trump says, some countries will get breaks and there will be some flexibility about the tariffs. But what we do not know is that whether this will be sustained or not. Because the same President Trump talked about he's going to impose tariffs on semiconductors, on lumber, and some other, items. And that is the concern. But yesterday, we had that elevator moving up, But the more critical story is President Trump saying that he's going to slam tariffs 25% on any country that buys crude oil from Venezuela. And now, that will be India, China, Spain. Those are the main countries there. And this is like an attack on China again, and an attack on Nicolas Maduro, putting him under pressure. Chevron license that they've given, they extended the license for an additional few weeks. But the truth of the matter is that, look, this is all Trump playing his usual game. Anyway, thank you very much.